Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming the stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the workers.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome back to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Good. You're rocking the singlet today. You didn't need to get dressed up.
Yeah, well, it's my black formal singlet.
Very good. Hey, as always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Facebook and Instagram at CVE Podcast, as well as on the CVE page of the Equity Mates website, equitymates.com/CVE. You don't have to, of course. You can still enjoy the show anyway. Massive show coming up. Canada, Thomas, has announced a GST holiday. That's where everyone gets a day off, but you have to spend it with your accountant. Crime rates for every type of crime in the US are down except for one. I'd tell you which one, but Thomas, I don't want to shoplift your thunder. Sorry, I meant steal. Lab-grown diamonds are rising in popularity. Seems making the scientists fight each other to give that authentic conflict feel is really paying off. But first, Thomas, inflation again. You know that the skip 30-second button on your podcast player? I feel like we need like a snooze button where it skips the first 9 minutes when we talk about inflation every episode.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure it's interesting. What do you got?
Well, the ABS just keeps publishing data. Like, what are we going to do?
Right.
So we got monthly inflation data last week. Markets were expecting 2.3% inflation. Headline came in at 2.1%. So a bit softer than expected. The headline figures, as you'd know, bumping along the bottom of the RBA's target band, but it's still all about electricity prices, and the trim mean, which strips that out, is running at 3.5%, which is still too high.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of worth recapping like how we got here. So we're not getting rate cuts right now because we've got these electricity subsidies, temporary electricity subsidies that are holding down inflation. But the question becomes, are they going to be temporary or not? And they're going to be rolled over sometime in the new year. Pretty unlikely to me that the government's going to pull them and jack up people's electricity prices just before the election.
Yeah.
Which means that the RBA, if they announce that they're going to roll them over for another year, suddenly the RBA is looking at inflation of 2.1%, which is too low.
Right.
That's right at the bottom of the band. And they might be forced to cut, as soon as they announce it, they might be forced to cut 50 basis points. So they say like, well, we were looking through these electricity subsidies, but now they're permanent. And now we're behind the curve.
We have talked about this before too, right? So yeah, like none of this feels like new information, but are we saying like, I don't get why they keep publishing effectively the same data all the time. Like, is it really like it's not changing that often?
Well, yeah, they're surveying it every month and updating it.
Okay.
That's what you do with a time series. They're not just repeating.
They got to do something with it.
Yeah. They're not just copying and pasting from last year.
Just because it's the same. They're like, it's the same again. We can't publish this.
Yeah. Well, it's actually. The point. Probably what's news in that number is that it was softer than markets were expecting.
Right.
So inflation is actually like the pulse of inflation is actually pretty soft.
So when will they know? Will there be like a government announcement on the energy subsidies that says, hey, we're keeping them or we're getting rid of them?
I reckon the budget, I think, I forget, I'm not sure exactly how the timing lines up. May 17th is the last day for the election.
Right.
And then depending on when they call the election, because if they call it early, then they don't get another budget. But if they get another budget in, I expect, or probably they'll take that to the election that they're going to roll it over, would be my guess.
Right.
But it's also the thing about this story is like we're paying a subsidy to consumers to pay to the electricity companies, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of paying a ransom to the gas cartel because gas sets the marginal price in the electricity market, and we're just funneling money to the gas cartel. And what happened, with the reason why electricity prices spiked and we've got this cost of living relief with the electricity subsidies is because when Russia invaded Ukraine, gas prices spiked.
Yeah.
And they spiked in Australia because the first thing Russia did is they blew up a pipeline between Gladstone and Sydney to disrupt the Australian gas market.
Hang on, what? How did I...
How did you miss that?
Hey, I was listening and I'm like, yep, Russia, Ukraine, yep. Then somehow there's been a rocket attack on a pipeline between Gladstone and Sydney that I somehow missed. I'll be the first to admit I'm not paying the most attention to the news. Maybe, and I know the news cycle is short, so potentially I miss a day. You just don't hear about the missile attack on the pipeline between, pipeline in New South Wales somewhere. But I feel like that's something I would have caught.
Yeah. No, it didn't. It didn't happen.
Right.
But Australian energy prices went through the roof because global energy prices did. And the gas cartel went, we can get away with jacking up our prices, even though it had no impact on the Australian market or the actual dynamics of the Australian market.
But don't we sell gas into the global market and then buy it back from the global market? Therefore, it does impact us?
Yeah, which is an insanely stupid thing to do. Because there's many...
It certainly is. But
there's been many times where it's been cheaper to buy Aussie gas from Japan than it has been to buy from Australia.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Which is it's just nuts. And so the gas cartel jacked up prices. Electricity prices went through the roof, even though there was no sort of disruption to the Australian market. The Albanese government came in and said, okay, we're setting a price cap of $12 a gigajoule. That price cap became a price floor, and it's very rarely been below $12 since then, even though nothing has changed for the extraction cost, the marginal cost of extracting. It hasn't changed. So we're just getting gouged. Australian consumers are just getting gouged. And then to reward the companies for this gouging, we now give consumers money, taxpayers money to pay them. And it's
like that's the solution. So
that's the solution.
We take money that people gave in tax. We give that back to people to help with paying the exorbitant costs of gas, which is only exorbitant because we sold the gas in the first place.
Yes.
Didn't we make any money from selling the gas?
No, very little.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we are a petrostate, a glorified petrostate in a sense. Like mining profits are bigger than the entire rest of every business in the country.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like it's kind of mining profits and nothing else.
Right. And including gas production in that mine.
Yeah. But they're all foreign-owned companies or majority foreign-owned companies through their shareholder structure. Like, so it's we got to get gouged by foreign companies, which is kind of like the worst thing of it. And then, there's a lot of argument about whether they pay reasonable amounts of royalties and revenue. But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty insane situation. And the other thing is, like, we're either taking the money from taxpayers to give back to people as subsidies, or the government is borrowing it and worsening the deficit position.
Right.
So it's like,
so what do they do? What's the solution? Stop selling gas or stop
domestic gas reservation. So I think everyone, like David Llewellyn-Smith at Macro Business, is doing excellent work on this, and no one's listening to him. Like, because Western Australia has a domestic gas reservation and electricity prices haven't spiked in Western Australia. It's like, it's a pretty simple solution.
I feel like even I can get my head around that.
Yeah, but no one's talking about it. So everyone go read Macro Business. They're doing excellent work on it.
Yeah, do it for sure. All right, Thomas, Canada has announced a GST holiday. What's the GST holiday?
So the Trudeau government has come out and announced that no one's paying GST, or not on anything, like I think on select items, but most things, between mid-December and mid-February, 2 months where no GST.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, awesome if you live in Canada.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's the first time I've seen GST used like this as a sort of a policy measure, or just as a temporary cost of living support policy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, the GST in Canada is only 5% compared to 10% here.
They're getting half price.
Half price, yes.
50% off GST. Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's just interesting to note. Like that's the first time I've seen that, and I think it's pretty good bang for the buck because they had two policies they announced. They're giving a GST holiday, and then they're giving every taxpayer $250.
Right.
Yeah, and so the GST holiday is going to cost them $1.6 billion. The cashback is going to cost them $4.5 billion.
Oh, right. So it's cheaper to do a GST holiday.
Yeah. But I feel like, at least politically, it's pretty big bang for your buck. And everyone's like, no GST, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it only cost you $1.6 billion compared to like $250.
What does it cost? What does it cost business though to like rearrange their point of sale and everything else to not charge GST? Because that's what they're saying, I think, isn't it? They're asking businesses to then reorganize things and not charge GST because it would be technically like illegal to charge GST in that period. Like, might be cheaper just to close your doors for 3 months. I can't be bothered working out this calculation. I'll just sit this one out.
Yeah, right. Like imagine like Woolies, like all the prices include GST, right? So you got to like do every single price in the store. Or
is maybe in Canada, is it calculated at the checkout or something? Like
possibly. I mean, that would make it easier, but probably not.
It's interesting looking at the qualifying goods. So the children's clothing, not everything is on a holiday. So children's clothing, children's footwear, diapers, car seats, print newspapers are GST free. Printed books are GST free. But not things like magazines. So they explicitly say magazine or periodical, brochure or pamphlet. But this one was interesting, Thomas. A directory, an assemblage of charts or an assemblage of street or road maps. So you and your charts still paying GST.
Wow.
So isn't it lucky you can listen to CVE for free and not have to pay GST on your charts? I think that was a...
they're scared of me.
So will this actually help? Because it's done like the marketing line is this is all going to help with affordability of stuff. So it's Christmas time. We're giving people more money to spend in the shops. You can get more bang for your buck. But will this actually help affordability, or is it just something that becomes inflationary?
I mean, it'll create a temporary downward spike in the inflation data, which the Bank of Canada will look through. But so like it'd be downward impulse to the inflation data.
Right.
I mean, there's sort of a question about whether it pulls forward consumption. Like often with these measures, you don't get a total boost. Spending in February and March goes down because everyone pulls it forward into the GST free period.
Right.
Sort of like is an idea. So they call that the pull forward. So in that sense, it might not boost aggregate demand, but it might too. Like it's a lot of spending over Christmas is sort of like you got a budget and you just spend it regardless. So maybe that bumps stuff up.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but definitely it's a stimulatory measure.
Yeah,
and it's sort of like it's pumping the economy along.
Right. Food and beverages also include, Thomas. Just to be clear, chips, crisps, puffs, curls, or sticks. This is from the official announcement. So any kind of potato chips, corn chips, cheese puffs, potato sticks, bacon, they've really gone to some granularity in their what's included. Cakes, muffins, pies, pastries, tarts, cookies, donuts, brownies, croissants with sweetened filling or coating.
Wow. Like plain croissants aren't included? Wow. That seems incredibly complex.
Children's toys, board game or card game, a toy that imitates another item. So a dollhouse or a toy car truck, toy car or truck. So I don't know there you go. Construction toy, jigsaw puzzles for all ages. So not just children's jigsaw puzzles, all ages.
Wow. What's not included? Have you got anything on what's not included?
No, we don't. It just says what's included. I think you can just assume anything that's not on this list. Given how prescriptive this list is. Like they only list under printed books things that are not included because they obviously need to exempt a colouring book or a book designed primarily for drawing on or affixing or inserting items such as clippings, pictures, coins, stamps or stickers. Obviously excluded.
Oh, that's excluded.
Yeah, that's excluded. Wow. Yeah.
Colouring books are excluded.
Colouring books are excluded, but children's toys are included.
Wow.
So,
a lot of pushback from the colouring in community on that one.
all right, why don't we take a break here? I'll allow everyone to go and digest the list of items that are now going to be on a GST holiday. Canada.ca/en/department-finance if you're interested. We'll be back with more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back here on Comedian versus Economist. You'll find us on Instagram and Facebook at CVE Podcast if you'd like to get in touch, see what we're up to, or you send us an email, cve@equitymates.com. Thomas, US crime has dropped off a cliff, seemingly. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about off a cliff, but I think it's definitely down. Well, I mean, we've got the chart we're looking at here. We've got some interesting data looking at crimes and the change over the last year. And crime's down pretty much with all the categories. Domestic violence is down 2%, robberies down 6%, residential burglaries down 14%, carjacking down a massive 26%.
That's good. I like to think as a society we've moved on from carjacking. It feels very primitive. I mean, putting aside the modernness of cars, but yeah, like it feels it's right. It's real thuggery. It's brazen.
Everyone's just getting it out of Grand Theft Auto now. It's just that need to jack someone's car.
Well, maybe this is it. And there's all these critics about computer games and violence in computer games and saying we should ban it. But maybe when you see the data and you go, well, carjacking's down 26%, and everyone's like, well, that's because they're getting their fix in GTA. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So this is really good. Domestic violence is down 2%.
Yeah, gun assaults down 18%, homicides down 13%. So some big gains, big improvements.
Yeah.
The one exception to it though is shoplifting. Shoplifting is up 24%.
Cost of living.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we did that story a few years ago about the organised looting in the UK.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And that was tied to the cost of living crisis.
I think they call it drop shipping. You take an order on like Etsy or whatever, and then you go and flog something from the shop.
And then sell it.
I mean, like in that list, I mean, I'm not worried about shoplifting being up. Like, it's a victimless crime, right, compared to the others.
Yeah, well, okay. Not as much as gun assault, sure.
I mean, it's victimless. Yeah, no one gets hurt. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
I like things where no one gets hurt.
Yep.
There's no violence. Yeah, and no one feels unsafe through shoplifting. Like even non-residential, like burglary, people are like, oh, I'm creeped out because someone was in here and I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
whereas shoplifting, it's very people. It's by definition, it's a very like inconspicuous activity.
Yeah.
It's going on all around us all the time. In fact, it's up 24%. Yet the average punter just doesn't sort of see it happening or know that it's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to pick one category to see a boost in, that would be it. But I think it's interesting, like the Queensland election, just the LNP campaigned hard on law and order there. Like I was up visiting and all the billboards were around law and order.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you kind of look at this and it's like, I don't know, like is like people talk about like the collapse of society or society's getting worse. You look at that data and the picture there is like, well, people are just hungry.
Yeah.
So
I guess the only downside is that shoplifting does increase the price of stuff for everyone else. Because retailers have to factor in this 24%, which is quite a lot when you think about 24% increase in shoplifting has to go into their prices and then everyone pays more. So maybe you think about it that way, you go, well, people who are already struggling are now having to subsidise people who are stealing stuff and getting it for nothing.
They just buy it off Etsy.
Get it drop shipped. Oh, man. But no, I mean, this is a good news story for me. It made me think about, do you remember when we were kids and I went through a bit of a troublesome patch, ages 8 to 20. There was a time where I took some chocolates from the local IGA and I brought them home. And this is when I realized that you were the smart one, was when you and Damien took my chocolates that I stole and ate them without my permission. And when I was like outraged about it, you were just like, who are you going to tell? And I thought, that's quite clever.
Well played.
Well played. Checkmate.
I have no memory of that.
So I did all the brawn. I supplied all the labour, all the manpower, and you got the chocolates. This trend has continued. All right, finally on the show, diamonds, Thomas. What's happening in the world of diamonds?
Oh, I think the arse is falling out of the diamond market. Well, is what it looks like to me. And it just the diamond market's at risk of being eaten by lab-grown diamonds. So lab-grown diamonds are taking off and the cost is collapsing rapidly. So in 2016, it was cost you $5,000 US dollars per carat for a diamond. And that's now down to $1,000. So from 5,000 to 1,000 in 8 years. So collapsing quickly. So
the price has dropped, but I think also the discrepancy in the price has dropped. So I read somewhere, because I was doing a bit of research for this, as I do, 80 to 95% less than natural diamonds is now the cost for the equivalent lab-grown diamonds.
Wow, okay. Yeah, right.
So
are they not comparable in quality?
They are identical in quality. And some people might argue, I don't know, that they're not, but they're made by carbon. Diamonds made of carbon, aren't they? So they are like identical in every way to a naturally grown diamond. They're just grown in a lab, as opposed to lab-grown meat, which hasn't really taken off as I thought it would either. But no, I think lab-grown diamonds are identical.
So what's the discount then? Oh, like are you talking like in terms of extraction cost?
No, like the cost of a lab-grown diamond is about 80 to 95% less than a natural mined diamond. So if you want to buy the same diamond, shape, size, whatever. There's 4 C's, I think: cut, clarity, carat, and something else. I researched this a lot when I was looking for an engagement ring for Anna. So I'm concerned about this drop in natural diamond prices because...
you paid a lot of money.
Yeah, arguably too much. But my understanding is they're exactly the same. And I guess it's taken people, I think, to just kind of go, maybe get over that mental barrier as much as anything and just going, you know what, it actually doesn't matter. Like, I don't need, like it's still an authentic diamond. Yeah, it doesn't need to have come out of the ground. And especially like the humanitarian side of it, the social conscience side of it, where people, there is problems with conflict diamonds and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, well, I think a lot of people getting on board with that train, because that's the other chart we've got here, is that as a share of the market, lab-grown diamonds were less than 10% just back in 2020. It's only 4 years ago. They're now up to 46% of the market.
Yeah, wow.
So big, So you're gaining market share very quickly. Yeah. So I don't know. Like for me, like doesn't seem like there's any upside like cap on what we could possibly produce, right? Like what are they? It's probably just coal and gas and like things that are in abundance. So I feel like the marginal cost of diamonds is just going to keep collapsing. Yeah.
I think so. And the problem is, I think it's the new players in the lab-grown diamond space are just like doing away with the status quo in the diamond industry, which was the diamond industry has historically regulated the supply of diamonds. So they're like, no, we can mine, like they can mine as many diamonds as they want, but they're like, there's just these, I don't know, 2 or 3 massive diamond players that basically withhold diamonds from the market to prevent too much supply.
They stitched it up.
And now there's these young upstart lab growers who are just like, we can make one of those in 20 minutes. It's like 3D printing. So, I think that's maybe the big shift as well, is people are just like, no, we don't have to regulate supply. If we can just make cheaper diamonds, let's just make them and sell them. And I don't know.
Yeah. And once they become super abundant, like, why not just get glass? Like, does it look that different? Not to my old eyes anymore.
No, so that's not to your tight ass eyes anymore, Thomas. To the upmarket, higher end, sort of fashion conscious modern person, I believe that. Yeah, I think the diamonds, like a diamond, is pretty impressive. If you see like amazing sparkling diamond, it's got some sparkle to it.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like we're hopelessly unqualified to talk about the value or shininess of diamonds. But interesting data nonetheless. So on that trajectory, lab-grown diamonds will overtake natural diamonds. Probably within a couple of years, and who knows what the future is for natural diamonds.
No, price collapsing. Anyway, so if you want to give your partner some glass beads for your engagement, tell him Thomas the Economist said that's economically sound.
Yeah. Also, if you need some wedding poems, Tom can help you out. All right, let's leave it there. We've gone on too long. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love it if you left a rating and a review wherever you listen to this podcast. That is all for us for this week. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, it's bye for now.
Comedian vs. Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian vs. Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website, where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian vs. Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.